Ever get that feeling? Like you want to really get under the skin of a place, beyond the typical tourist stuff.
Yeah, you want to like dig deeper, right?
Totally. Especially when it comes to a region as massive and multifaceted as India. I mean, talk about a place ripe for exploration. That's what we're doing today. Diving deep, specifically into the Northeast.
Those northeastern states are something else, huh?
Absolutely. Arunachal Pradesh, Assam, Tripura, they're all kind of tucked away up there, with cultures and histories that often feel a world apart, even from the rest of India.
It's like a whole other world up there sometimes, yeah.
And luckily for us, we've got a treasure trove of insights in front of us. Basically a curated journey through these three incredible states. Less like a textbook, more like, I don't know, someone's really insightful travel journal.
Oh, I like that. Like a collection of firsthand observations, little-known facts, almost like snapshots of daily life and culture.
Exactly. And we're talking the whole 9 yards: history, music, food, festivals, the natural environment, even a bit of language. So consider this your express lane to really getting a feel for these three northeastern states.
Sounds like a plan.
It is a plan.
Yeah.
Our mission, should we choose to accept it, is to sift through all this info and pull out the good stuff. The stuff that'll make you sit up and say, huh, didn't know that. We want to give you a solid grasp of what makes each of these states unique.
All without drowning you in too much detail.
Right, just the juicy bits. So, ready to kick things off?
Absolutely. Let's dive in.
Awesome. First up, Arunachal Pradesh. The name itself, Land of the Dawn-Lit Mountains, conjures up images of, well, mountains and sunrises, I guess.
Right.
But there's way more to it than just pretty scenery.
Oh, yeah. You hit the nail on the head with more to it. The thing that jumps out at you first about Arunachal Pradesh is the sheer tribal diversity. It's staggering, like 26 major tribes, over 100 subtribes.
Wow, over 100.
Think about that. You could walk from one valley to the next and encounter a totally different culture, different languages, different traditions. It's a fascinating mix, but it also means that social dynamics can get pretty complex.
Right, definitely a recipe for a vibrant cultural mosaic, but also some potential challenges.
For sure. Which is why it's so crucial to have organizations working to preserve those individual tribal identities while also fostering a sense of unity at a regional level. It's a balancing act.
Makes sense. It's mind-blowing to think about that many cultures coexisting in one state, and each tribe with its own unique fingerprint. I mean, the notes talk about these amazing hand-woven textiles.
There's gorgeous, intricate beadwork, such vibrant colors, really something special.
And some communities, they have this whole tradition of tattooing, right? Almost like a visual language, telling stories about their identity, status, and all that.
It's more than just body art. It's a way of life, a connection to their ancestors. Powerful stuff. And speaking of ancestors, this cultural vibrancy is layered on top of like centuries of history. You see connections to Tibet and Bhutan everywhere.
You see in the architecture.
Oh yeah, especially in some of the older monasteries, the styles they use, the religious practices, it's all very interconnected. There's even a mention of Arunachal Pradesh in the Mahabharata.
The Mahabharata, now that's going way back.
Deep roots, man, deep roots. But then, if you fast forward a bit, you see this period of relative isolation during the British colonial era, and then, boom, the 1962 Sino-Indian War happened.
That must have been a turning point.
Absolutely. It put the region right on the geopolitical map, for better or worse. And, those border disputes we read about in the notes, they're a direct legacy of that conflict, a reminder that the past isn't really past.
Still very much present, yeah. And in light of all that, Arunachal Pradesh becoming a state in 1987 feels like a pretty big deal.
Relatively recent, right? But a crucial step in their journey. A chance to be part of India while also fiercely protecting their own heritage.
Right, holding on to what makes them unique. And speaking of holding on to traditions, let's talk about festivals. Because Arunachal Pradesh, they know how to celebrate.
Oh, yeah, they do.
So Losar, the Monpon New Year. The notes even mention a specific date for next year's celebration, March 22nd.
Oh, yeah, that's one you don't want to miss. Big feasts, traditional music and dancing, prayers, the whole community comes together.
Sounds amazing. And then you've got festivals tied to the agricultural calendar, like the Dree Festival, celebrated by the Apatani tribe.
A classic harvest festival, basically a big thank you to the land for its bounty, lots of dancing, and of course, sharing of rice beer, or a pong, as they call it.
Naturally. Makes sense to celebrate with the fruits, or should I say grains, of your labor. And then there's Newcomb.
Oh, the Nishi tribe's big celebration. Yeah, it's all about unity and harmony, coming together as a community. A pretty universal theme, really.
It is, and it seems to be at the heart of a lot of these festivals.
Yeah.
You also have Solon for the Addy tribe.
Right. Celebrating a good harvest, but also honoring their warrior spirit.
Interesting. So there's a historical element woven in there as well.
Absolutely. And then there's Sidoni for the Tagan tribe, which is more focused on seeking spiritual blessings. It's fascinating to see how each tribe expresses its own values and beliefs through these celebrations.
So much variety, so much color. And that vibrancy carries over into their music, too. The notes mention traditional tribal folk music. You know, instruments like the pemakang, the pahu, the yangkim, the names themselves sound so exotic.
I know, right? And those instruments, they carry the weight of centuries of tradition in their sound. It's like a direct link to the past.
And speaking of links to the past, we can't forget the bamboo flute.
Ah, yes, the soul of Arunachal Pradesh's music almost.
Seriously, the notes say it's central to their storytelling, their rituals. I'm picturing those melodies floating through the mountains.
Oh, I bet it's magical. But it's not all ancient instruments, though. There's a modern rock scene happening, too.
Really? That's cool.
Yeah, artists like Tabachek are blending those traditional sounds with more modern influences, a really cool fusion.
Tradition meets innovation. I love it. And we can't talk about music without mentioning those tribal chants and dances.
Oh, yeah. Panang, Buya, Chalo. They're high energy, full of rhythm. You really get a sense of community and shared history when you watch those dances.
All right, I'm getting hungry now. Let's talk food.
Good call. Arunachal Pradesh's cuisine is a journey in itself. You've got some Tibetan influence, of course.
I was going to say, with all those mountains in the proximity to Tibet, there's got to be some overlap.
Right, thukpa, those hearty noodle soups, momos, delicious dumplings. Those are staples across the Himalayas.
Comfort food at its finest. But then you get into the really unique stuff, like the bamboo shoot dishes.
Ah, yes, bamboo shoots, a staple in a lot of Northeast Indian cooking. You can fry them, pickle them, ferment them. The possibilities are endless.
And they're not afraid to experiment either. There's this dish called pika pila, made with fermented bamboo shoots and pork. I'd love to try that.
Oh, yeah, that's a classic Aruna Kali dish. You've also got to try their traditional drinks. Marua, a millet beer, and apong, the rice beer. You can't really understand a culture without tasting its drinks.
True words. And let's not forget the practical side of food. In a mountainous region like that, preserving food is key, hence the smoked meats.
Makes sense. Got to make things last. Speaking of lasting, let's move on to the natural environment because Arunachal Pradesh is a biodiversity wonderland.
Oh yeah, over 500 species of orchids alone. That's insane.
It's mind-boggling, and they have these incredible medicinal plants too, like Mishmitita. It shows you how connected the people are to their environment, how they've learned to use its resources.
It's like a living pharmacy out there. And the animals too. We're talking snow leopards, red pandas, hulak gibbons. This is like straight out of a nature documentary.
It is. But it's not all glamorous creatures. You've got the Bougainvillea, this tiny, critically endangered bird found only in Arunachal Pradesh. It's a reminder that this incredible biodiversity needs our protection.
Absolutely. And speaking of protection, we've got to mention Namdapha National Park.
Yeah.
This place is a biodiversity hotspot.
Home to all sorts of creatures, including the clouded leopard, which is super rare. It's a testament to the ecological significance of this region.
A place worth fighting for sure. And speaking of people doing amazing things, the notes mention Tabachake, not just as a musician, but as a modern folk artist making waves.
He's gaining recognition beyond Arunachal Pradesh, which is great to see.
Right.
And then there's Rikongpa Cho, this amazing martial arts athlete, really putting Arunachal Pradesh on the map in a different way.
It's inspiring to see people from these often overlooked regions breaking through, showing the world what they're capable of. And the Arunachali film scene, that's pretty cool too.
Yeah, telling their own stories, focusing on their heritage. It's a powerful way to preserve their culture and share it with the world.
All right, quick rundown of some key locations, because the notes paint a pretty amazing picture of the landscapes and cultural attractions in Arunachal Pradesh.
All right, first up, Tawang Monastery, the largest Buddhist monastery in India. Talk about a sight to behold.
Wow, I bet that's something else.
Definitely worth the visit. Then you've got the Zero Valley, rich cultural heritage, and they even host a pretty famous music festival there.
Sounds like a good time.
Oh, yeah. Bomdila is another great spot, gorgeous views of the Himalayas. And then you have to go over the Sela Pass, high-altitude, dramatic landscapes.
The photos of that must be incredible.
They are. And then we have Machuca Valley. If you're looking for a remote, picturesque getaway, That's the place to be. And of course, Namdapha National Park for all you nature lovers out there.
So much variety, so much to see. And let's not forget the languages. Over 50 dialects spoken in this one state.
Crazy, right? Nishi, Addy, Apatani, Monpa, Wancho, just to name a few.
Hindi seems to help bridge the gap, though, right?
Yeah, it acts as a common language in many areas, which is helpful. But those local phrases, those are the gems, like agar pe kabo in Nishi. That means come eat with me. How hospitable is that?
That's so welcoming.
Right. And then there's yulo yulo, a chant they use during celebrations, and pomo kamo in Addy. Basically, their way of saying, how are you?
It's those little things, those everyday phrases that really give you a feel for a place.
Totally agree.
All right, next stop on our Northeast adventure, Assam. Assam is often described as a melting pot of cultures, and for good reason. I mean, you've got the Ahoms, the Bodos, the Kacharis, the Missings, the Karbis, the Rabhas. So many distinct communities, each with their own traditions and stories.
And that cultural mix is what makes Assam so vibrant.
Exactly. And you can't talk about Assam without mentioning the handloom, the Mekhala Chador, that beautiful two-piece garment the women wear, and the gamusa, that simple cloth with such deep cultural significance.
It's a symbol of respect, identity, welcome. It's woven into the fabric of Assamese culture, literally.
I love that. And of course, tea. Assam is practically synonymous with tea. It's their claim to fame.
Global fame even, but there's so much more to Assam than just tea. Its history is fascinating. Did you know the Ahom kingdom ruled for, 6 centuries?
6 centuries. Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah, from 1228 to 1826. That's a long time to hold on to power. And they were fierce warriors, too. The Battle of Sarahat, where they defeated the Mughals, is still a source of huge pride for Assamese people.
They definitely have a strong sense of identity, that's for sure.
For sure. And then, of course, you have the tea revolution in the 19th century. It changed everything.
Totally reshaped the economy and brought in tons of people from outside Assam to work on the tea plantations.
Yeah, it had a huge impact on the demographics of the region. And the notes also mention the partition and the migration that followed.
A difficult chapter in Assam's history, with lasting consequences.
Absolutely. And the Assam Accord of 1985, that was a big deal too, trying to address those issues of identity, migration, and autonomy.
Complex stuff, but important to understand.
Agreed. But let's move on to something a little more fun: festivals. Assam's festival calendar is jam-packed.
Okay, I'm ready for some festivities.
Well, first up, Rongali Bihu, also known as Bohag Bihu. It's their New Year celebration coinciding with the spring harvest.
Sort of double celebration.
Exactly. Music, dancing, feasting. It's a big, joyous occasion.
Sounds like my kind of party.
And then you've got Mag Bihu, or Bogali Bihu. It's the post-harvest festival, a time for feasting and community bonfires.
Community bonfires sound amazing.
They are pretty special. And of course, Durga Puja is a massive celebration across the entire state.
Yeah, Durga Puja is huge all over India.
And then there's the Ambubachi Mela. It's held at the Kamakya Temple and links to fertility rituals. It draws huge crowds. People come from all over.
It's fascinating how religion and cultural traditions are so intertwined.
Totally. And speaking of traditions, we can't forget the Tea Festival, a celebration of Assam's most famous product.
That's a festival I could get behind. All right, Assam's musical landscape hit me with it. What am I listening to when I'm in Assam?
Well, first, you've got to hear those Baihu songs. They're super catchy, high energy, and they're played everywhere during Baihu.
Yeah, the soundtrack to the festival, right?
Exactly. Then there's Satriya music, which is more classical, devotional. It originated in the Vaishnavite monasteries, and it's known for its beautiful storytelling and intricate dance movements.
I'd love to see a Satriya performance.
It's really captivating. And then, of course, there's Bhupen Hazarika. His music is legendary.
He was a singer, right?
Yeah, and a composer, poet, filmmaker, a true Renaissance man. His voice was powerful, and his lyrics often addressed social issues, making him a beloved figure in Assam and beyond.
A real icon. What about modern Assamese music?
Oh, it's thriving. You've got singers like Zubin Garg and Papan, who are huge stars. They often blend traditional Assamese music with modern sounds, appealing to a wide audience.
There's a rock scene, right? I remember reading something about that.
Yeah, there's a cool Indian rock scene, too. Bands like Lucid Recess and Voodoo Child are making some great music.
Awesome. Okay, time for the food portion of our Assam exploration.
Perfect timing. I'm getting hungry again.
Me too. So, what are we eating in Assam?
Well, rice is the staple, of course, and you'll find a lot of delicious fish curries, often cooked with mustard seeds.
I love fish curry. And mustard seeds add such a distinct flavor.
They do. And then there's patika. It's this simple mashed dish, often made with potatoes, eggplant, or fish, and seasoned with mustard oil. Super comforting.
Sounds delicious and simple.
Exactly. And they're big on leafy greens, too. Zak, they call it. Really healthy and fresh.
Makes sense.
And then there's the tribal influence in the cuisine, like pork cooked with bamboo shoots.
We saw that in Arunachal Pradesh too, right?
Yeah, it seems to be a popular dish across the Northeast. And for dessert, you've got to try the pithas, these sweet rice cakes, especially during Baihu.
They sound delicious.
Oh, they are. And of course, there's Assam tea, the world-famous brew.
Can't forget that. And to wash it all down, apong, the Mizing tribe's traditional rice beer.
Cheers to that. Now, from the culinary delights of Assam, let's venture into its breathtaking landscapes.
Assam's got it all. Plains, hills, forests. It's so diverse.
They're lucky to have all those sal trees, those magnificent giants that dominate some of their forests. And the orchids, over 500 species. It's a paradise for flower lovers.
I'm sensing a theme here with the orchids. They're everywhere in the Northeast.
They really are. And then there's Majuli, the world's largest river island. That's a unique ecosystem right there.
It's so cool that they have that.
It is. Speaking of cool, we can't forget the wildlife. Assam is famous for its one-horned rhinos, especially in Kaziranga National Park.
It's a conservation success story. They've brought the rhino back from the brink of extinction.
It's incredible. And they have hulot gibbons, pygmy hogs, golden langurs, Bengal tigers, the list goes on.
Assam is truly a wildlife haven. And speaking of amazing creatures, let's move on to some notable Assamese people who have made their mark on the world.
All right, who do we have?
We already talked about Bhupen Hazarika, Zubin Garg, and Papan in the music scene.
Right, legends.
Exactly. But there's also Hima Das, the sprinter. She's done so much to put Assam on the map in the world of athletics.
And filmmaker Rima Das, her films are incredible. She's telling those unique Assamese stories on a global stage.
Supermodel Dipanita Sharma, too. She's originally from Assam.
Wow, I didn't know.
So much talent coming out of this one state. It's pretty inspiring. Okay, what about those landmarks? Got to hit those before we move on to the last state.
Okay, landmark time. Guwahati, the biggest city, is a must visit. It's got the Kamakya Temple, which is ancient and steeped in mythology. Plus, it's a gateway to the rest of the Northeast.
Sounds like a good starting point.
It is. Then you have to visit Kaziranga National Park, obviously, for the rhinos and all the other amazing wildlife. Manas National Park is another one worth checking out.
And Buli Island, we've got to go back there.
Oh, yeah, Majuli's special, beautiful, culturally rich. Then there's Sivasagar, the old Ahom capital. It's got all these historic palaces and temples.
Sounds like a history buff's dream.
It is. And for something a bit different, there's Tezpur. It's known as the City of Eternal Romance. Sounds romantic, right?
It does.
And then we have Haflong up in the hills. It's got a totally different vibe from the rest of Assam, cooler, laid back.
I love how much variety there is in one state.
Assam really does have it all. And finally, the languages. Assamese is the official language, but you'll also hear Bodo, Mising, Bengali. It reflects the diversity of the people.
And those everyday phrases are just gold. Kikoa, what's up?
Classic.
Baal Pace, I like it.
Love that one.
And Jai I Aksam, glory to Mother Assam. You can really feel that regional pride.
Strong and proud.
Dulor Gorum, it means super energetic, and it perfectly captures the energy of Bihu. And then there's Ekon Thandapanika, which means relax, have some water. So chill.
It's like they're saying, take it easy, everything's going to be okay.
Love it. Okay, we've explored the mountains of Arunachal Pradesh, the plains and tea gardens of Assam. Last stop on our Northeast India deep dive, Tripura. This state might be the smallest of the three, but it packs a cultural punch.
Oh, it does.
Tripura is home to 19 recognized indigenous tribes, including the Tripuras, Rangs, Jamasas, Chakmas, and Halams. A whole lot of cultural diversity packed into one small state.
It's impressive, really. And you immediately notice their skill with bamboo and cane. I mean, they make everything out of it. Furniture, mats, baskets.
Talk about resourceful.
Seriously, they're masters of the craft. And then there's the handloom weaving. They create these beautiful textiles, the risa, the rakutu, the patra. It's an art form.
It sounds like it. And the dance forms, too. The notes describe them as captivating, and I believe it.
Oh, yeah. They've got hojagiri, where women dance balancing on earthen pots. You got to see it to believe it. Incredible balance and grace.
Wow, I can't even imagine.
Then there's Lebangbumani, where they imitate insects.
Insects. That's interesting.
It's a post-harvest dance, a celebration of nature and the cycle of life. And then there's Garia, a vibrant dance performed during the Garia Puja festival, asking for blessings for a good harvest.
It seems like so many of the traditions are tied to the land and the seasons.
It makes sense, right? Their lives are very much connected to the natural world. And historically, Tripura was ruled by the Manika dynasty for centuries, from the 1400s until 1949 when they joined India.
That's a long time for one dynasty to be in power.
Yeah, it is. They definitely left their mark on Tripura. And then in 1971, during the Bangladesh Liberation War, Tripura played a big role in sheltering refugees.
Wow, I didn't know that.
A lot of Bangladeshis found refuge in Tripura. It was a defining moment in their history.
Definitely a pivotal moment. And the notes mention indigenous rights movements, too.
Yeah, there are ongoing efforts to preserve their culture and language, advocate for more autonomy. It's a reminder that history is still being written.
It's an ongoing process.
Okay.
Okay, let's talk festivals. Tripura's got its fair share of celebrations, right?
Oh, yeah, they do. They've got Gauriya Puja, a big one, celebrating the Gauriya deity.
Sounds like a major event.
It is. And then there's Kur Puja, which is really unique. The whole city observes silence for a day. It's a day of discipline and seeking blessings for the community.
The whole city. That's wild.
It's pretty intense. And then you've got Push Sankranti Mela, which is more like a fair with music, dancing, food, a big community gathering.
Sounds fun.
It is. And then there's the Ashokastami Festival. This one is held in Unakoti, which is famous for its massive rock carvings.
I've seen pictures of those. They're incredible.
Yeah, it's a sight to behold. They have a grand procession during the festival. It must be quite a spectacle.
I bet it is.
And finally, Karchi Puja, where they worship 14 different deities. It's a blend of tribal and Hindu traditions.
Sounds pretty cool.
It is. So much variety in their festivals, just like everywhere else in the Northeast.
It's amazing how much cultural richness there is in this region.
Hmm.
And the music, too. The notes describe Tripura's music as being very connected to nature.
Makes sense, right? With all the forests and hills.
Totally.
They've got traditional instruments like the sumui, a type of flute, the chongpreng, a string instrument, and the sarinda, which is bowed. You can really hear the influence of nature in the music.
I bet it's beautiful.
It is. And then there's the influence of Bengali music, which is understandable given their location.
Right, and their history of interaction with Bengal.
Exactly. And here's a fun fact. The legendary Bollywood composer S.D. Burman was actually born in Tripura.
No way. I had no idea.
Yeah, a true musical giant. And there are artists today like Panalal Bhattacharya and Thanga Darlong who are working hard to preserve traditional Kakbarak and folk songs, keeping that musical heritage alive.
It's so important to keep those traditions going.
Totally. Now let's talk food. Tripuri cuisine, also known as Mui Burak, has some unique flavors. They use a lot of Burma, which is fermented fish.
Fermented fish. That sounds
Right.
interesting.
It's definitely an acquired taste, but it adds this really interesting depth of flavor to their dishes. And they have this dish called gudak, pork cooked with bamboo shoots and local herbs.
There's that bamboo shoot connection again.
It's everywhere in the Northeast. And then there's mui buak butwi, which is a mix of vegetables, sometimes with fish, a really hearty dish. And for drinks, you've got chuak, the rice beer, and mazding surma, a spicy chutney that's often made with fermented fish.
It seems like fermented fish is a key ingredient in their cooking.
It definitely adds a unique element to their cuisine.
You got to admire their adventurous palates. Okay, let's talk about Tripura's natural environment. The notes mention that 60% of the state is covered in forests. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, they're doing a good job of protecting their forests.
Good for them.
And like the other Northeast states, they've got an incredible variety of plants, including orchids and all sorts of medicinal herbs.
It's like a natural pharmacy up there.
Totally. And the wildlife is amazing. Clouded leopard is their state animal. Super rare and beautiful.
I'd love to see one of those in the wild.
Me too. And they have Fair's langur, an endangered primate found only in that region. So special. Plus, there are tons of birds, elephants, all sorts of creatures. They've got these wildlife sanctuaries like Sepahihala, Trishna, and Gumti that are doing a great job of protecting these animals.
That's good to hear.
It is.
Okay, last but not least, notable people from Tripura.
All right, who do we have?
Well, we already talked about S.D. Burman, the music legend, but there's also Sandev Devarman, the tennis star. He's a real inspiration for aspiring athletes.
Yeah, he put Tripura on the map in the world of tennis. And then there's Deepa Karmakar, the gymnast. She's made history with her achievements.
She's amazing. And Thanga Darlong, the musician who dedicated his life to preserving Tripuri tribal music, a true champion of his culture.
Such an important role to play. And then you have contemporary artists like Biju Sinya and Daniel Jamatia who are keeping those traditions alive while also bringing in modern elements.
Keeping it fresh.
Exactly.
All right, final sprint. Let's talk landmarks in Tripura.
Landmark time. Okay, first up, Agartala, the capital city. You have to check out the Ujjayanta Palace. It's magnificent.
This sounds impressive.
It is. And then there's Nirmahal, which is a palace built right in the middle of a lake.
A lake palace. That's unique.
Yeah, it's the only one in eastern India. And the Unakoti rock carvings, those are a must-see. Millions of Shiva carvings dating back centuries.
Talk about a labor of love.
Incredible, right. And then there are the Jampui Hills, a beautiful escape from the city, all lush green and orange orchards.
Sounds peaceful.
It is. And for the religiously inclined, there's the Mahamuni Buddha Temple and the Tripura Sundari Temple, both important pilgrimage sites.
Wow, so much history and culture packed into one small state.
Tripura is full of surprises.
It seems like it. And let's not forget the languages. Kokborok is the main indigenous language, but Bengali is widely spoken too, along with various tribal dialects.
It's a mix, for sure. I love those little phrases, though, like bling, bulwuthang, which means how are you in Kokborok.
Yeah. It's always interesting to hear how different languages express the same sentiment.
Right. And Chumhani refers to their traditional shifting cultivation practices.
It's interesting.
Kiwawumem Brewe means what's new. And then there's Jai Tripura Mata, glory to Mother Tripura. Always good to have a patriotic phrase in your back pocket.
And for a nice farewell, Arak Wung Tai, meaning stay well.
Classy way to say goodbye.
I love it. Well, there you have it. Our whirlwind tour of Arunachal Pradesh, Assam, and Tripura is complete.
What a journey.
Seriously. These three states are so distinct, each with its own unique history, culture, and traditions. And the natural beauty. Wow. From the soaring mountains of Arunachal Pradesh to the lush tea gardens of Assam and the dense forests of Tripura, the Northeast is a feast for the eyes.
Absolutely. I think what really stood out for me was the sheer diversity of tribal communities in Arunachal Pradesh and the Ahom kingdom ruling Assam for 6 centuries. That's mind-blowing.
Totally agree. And Tripura's dance forms, like that Hojagiri dance, just incredible. And who knew that S.D. Burman was from Tripura? That was a fun fact.
It was. So I guess the big question is, how does understanding these northeastern states, with all their unique characteristics, contribute to a better understanding of India as a whole?
Right. How do these pieces fit into the larger puzzle? It makes you want to explore further, right? Dive deeper into specific aspects of their cultures, their histories, their natural environments.
Absolutely. There's always more to.